And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Flying weather for Monday morning. No change out west here. Again, forecast to be IFR for the Aleutians, Bering Sea, on up into Norton Sound, in toward Kotzebue, and then the Arctic coast. Marginal VFR pushing up over the southeast interior here with IFR, Kodiak Island, and just along the North Gulf Coast there and down off the Panhandle. VFR over the inside waters. And for the afternoon, not much change, a little bit of improvement here over the southeast interior areas, and stays VFR for the southeast coast. IFR pulling off the Arctic coast there, and still along portions of the northwest coast down into Norton Sound, still covering the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. And then for Tuesday morning, this area pushes inland, IFR, right into the mid-Yukon River Valley there, covering Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, and still covering all of the Bering Sea from St. Lawrence Island down across the Pueblos to the Aleutians. Marginal for the Alaska Peninsula, Bristol Bay into the Kuskokwim Valley, with IFR up the east side of Kodiak Island and into the Gulf, with VFR for Tuesday morning, Cook Inlet, southeast interior, all the way down the southeast coast. And for the afternoon, IFR pushes across the Kuskokwim Valley here, right up to the western Alaska Range. Another area here over the Koyukuk Valley to the southern slopes of the central and western Brooks Range. VFR, central and eastern north slope to the Arctic coast. IFR now south of St. Lawrence Island, but still covering the Bering Sea and the Aleutians, and a band of IFR here, east side of Kodiak Island, up to just grazing the eastern North Gulf Coast. And a little bit of marginal VFR now pushing into Lynn Canal and Glacier Bay and in along the coastal areas of the Panhandle. Passes Anaktuvik and Adigan. Marginal VFR for the day on Monday. In fact, western Alaska Range marginal VFR. Rainy, Lake Clark Merrill, windy marginal, Isabel marginal, and Tanita pass marginal VFR. And for Portage, occasionally or mostly marginal, Chilcoot and White, another VFR day, at least one more. Freezing levels, cold air up here over the north slope and the Brooks Range out to the Arctic coast, with 2,000 feet up in that area, and then slowly rising to about 8,000 feet here down toward Kodiak Island and the North Gulf Coast. 10 to 12,000 feet over the southeast coast, 12 to 14,000 feet over the Aleutians. And for icing, got a batch of moisture coming in here, bringing considerable moderate rime icing with it into the Yukon Delta, up to the southern coast of the Seward Peninsula, down to Nunivak Island, and could be some areas of isolated moderate rime or mixed icing over the east side of the state, right down to the North Gulf Coast. Jet stream, northeast winds, 75 knots there, northeast Bristol Bay, and the Aleutian Range area, west 75 knots to 80 knots there, coming across the northern Bering Sea, and then south to north flow here, up to 75 knots for the eastern North Gulf Coast there into the northern Panhandle. And at 9,000 feet, westerlies 40 knots over the Yukon Flats there, otherwise pretty light out to the west and to the north here, as well as down to Kodiak Island. And then northerlies at about 40 to 45 knots here, coming in southward across the western Bering Sea to the west central Aleutians. And south to north flow here, not too strong though, pushing into the southeast coast. 3,000 feet, pretty light winds here across much of the area, maybe 30 knots there along southern Norton Sound area, but very light down to Kodiak Island in the Gulf. Out west here, not much different, maybe 30 to 35 knots coming down over the western Aleutians. And with these lighter wind conditions, again, no significant turbulence is forecast anywhere around the state.